It takes more than guts to be a gangster. It takes good ideas, and I hope these ideas help you. Hey, what's going on, Marvel Strike Force community? This is your mob boss, GangsterKT, and today we're going to do a video mainly about Nova and some of my initial thoughts with him now that I've had a chance to test him out a little bit. Obviously, the full team's not here, but we will still talk about that and what I'm seeing from him so far. Then I'm going to get into some of the community discussions, some tips for Scopely and things I see directionally from the game going on right now. Then also some tips for the community. I'm also starting to get a little nervous for the first time that this game may not be around forever, and that is definitely something that I don't want. And a bitter pill to swallow. So I'm going to talk about that and maybe what we can do about that a little bit. So starting off, I want to get into my initial thoughts on Nova. So I'll start out by saying I'm actually a little nervous about him right now. And I think that's fairly normal. When new characters first come out, when new teams first come out, I think people are typically disappointed. YA is a perfect example of that. I know everyone did not think they were going to be good at all. And here, a year later, however long it's been, they are still usable. And I think ended up being pretty good and better than what people thought at first. Part of the reasons for this, when tunes first start coming out, you don't have their full team. So, for example, Nova in War, the new Thor gives him an additional 50% damage that we aren't seeing right now when we're testing him. That'll be huge, but right now is representative of what he is without his team. So still some things you can learn. And then the last point, a lot of times when we're first testing these characters, they might be at 3 stars or 4 stars. But this feels different to me, and a big part of that reason, as you can see on the background picture there, I was fortunate enough to get a 7-star Nova, so I finished 490 in the event. Was really happy with that. It was something I'd worked hard to be able to get to. So I really don't have much room for increase on my Nova power. He's T17, he's Blue ISO 4. Level 95, you can see he's 317,000 power, so he's a pretty big boy already, and he's the new biggest and baddest tune. And I just have been disappointed so far with the testing I've done. So I think one of the biggest things, again, it's his damage. I expected him to have a lot more damage compared to some of the other newer characters like Kang out right now, like what we see some of the invaders doing at low stars. Especially in raids, and just the overall damage output right now. This feels low, and I think the reason for that is, especially with his ult, it's 700% damage that's an AoE attack, and that's huge, right? Plus his ult does like a million other things, including the battlefield effect. So it's really powerful ability, but that damage isn't piercing, and it just is not feeling the same like as what Kang's ult is at all. Not even feeling close to that. By the time he gets his ult off, when I've been trying different gamma counters and even just some other various counters, it feels like it's just tickling him. It's not doing much. So again, the extra 50% damage from Thor will help in war. Also, Star-Lord starts out putting 2 turns of defense down on all the enemies. So as you know from the Underworld match, that is extremely powerful. But teams can clear those, right? So can't rely that those are going to be up by the time Nova does his ult. So again, just a little nervous about his power right now. And it's not one of those things where, oh, I just need to get more stars on him. Like I'll get the 5th red star on him. Depending on how he's doing, may take him higher than that down the road. But I've been doing a lot of testing on the Gamma team, and I just have not found anything with Novo and Cosmo yet with other meta tunes that'll work at all. And surprised by that. So we know the full team's going to work. Nova will get a lot more speed when he has the full team, so he'll be able to get ahead of Gamma, and I am confident that'll work. But just really surprised that it hasn't been more effective yet. Just getting absolutely destroyed testing it. I'm fairly small Gammas. With this huge Nova I have, and a smaller Cosmo, he's level 90, but he's only 3 red star, so do definitely need more stars on him. But again, just a bit disappointed so far, and then I'm a little nervous. We've seen a pattern from Scopely where when they develop tunes early, especially Apocalypse, they maybe haven't accounted for all the power creep since then. So with him being like the next legendary, really since Legendary on the Death Seed team in Apocalypse, it's like how early has he been worked on, and is his power really in line with where it should be for this new meta-defining war specific, legendary character that's part of the new meta going forward. So we'll see. It's early. Some of the factors and lookouts for when it's early I mentioned are still in play. Others, like him being low star, aren't. So I'm nervous. I really wanted to go big on this team and have gone big, as you can see. So I hope he pans out a little better than what it's showing right now. So let's talk about the state of the game a little bit. People probably saw Tana came out with the video earlier today that he's quitting. He was such a resource for the community. That is a huge deal. Pathfinder had a video a couple weeks ago that he was quitting. Boylon's videos, if you're watching him right now, it feels like he's about to quit any day with just the constant negativeness around the game. And, these things are fair. So, in my head, what's going on? We hear all different kinds of issues with the game, but I really tried to boil this down to like, what's one main point to summarize this overall? And to me, it's the dynamics of combat based power in systems versus collection based power in systems. And I think we're seeing two main directions right now that cover that. So, the first is the cookie cutter solutions being forced. It's almost like it's more important to have a team present than it is to have the right power and the right theory behind how you design that team the way Scopely's making them. So that's really taking away a lot of agency and forcing just more the collection than the actual like figuring out and optimizing and really putting the best power in that team you can. And that's where the sweet spot of this game is. The second thing and most important to me is events. And again, just completely magnifying that collection is what's important in this game right now versus like learning the combat, optimizing your power, which is where it should be. So events are the worst thing for me with the state of this game. I mean, it is just like a huge headache having to remember everything, having to hoard everything, changing when we can power up our characters, changing when we can play. The blogs are miserable to read right now. It's just these long description of these events that just like roll your heads back and don't even get to the part of the new character entering the Red Star store that you might have cared about. Making watching CC's videos on these events like they're helpful. You need to if you really want to min max, but they're boring. Like no one cares about the collection and about spending orbs and these things. We want to do those things to make our team stronger. So not just trying to complain about this, but I do think it's important to kind of get our hands around what's wrong in this game. This is just my opinion. Everyone else's opinion's fair. But the question I'd leave this on is the last point I have here. Should you get the best rewards in the game right now for being better at Crucible or better at War? Or for opening 80 gold orbs. And it's not even close. The rewards in these event milestones are by far the most important rewards in the game. And the incremental difference in doing better in Crucible or War or other game modes is so small compared to those that it's minimal. And I've kind of stopped trying to min-max the events. I just can't keep up. Like I don't have the headspace for it anymore. When I was doing that, I wasn't even looking at my characters or learning their abilities or really how to min-max the combat because I just didn't have time to do everything. So I've kind of stopped min-maxing these events. It will hurt me at some point, but I'm actually enjoying how I play the game more. So my overall tip to Scopely, put more rewards in the combat-based systems and not whether you win or lose. In Crucible and War, it's designed that we're going to win or lose 50-50. So I don't think there should be that big of a difference there. But for what rank you're in Crucible, where you are in War, like stop having every alliance in Platinum 3 in War, with exception, obviously, and make more tiers there. So like alliances actually care about winning and losing War again, and not for the individual win-lose rewards, but because if they're in Plat 3 versus Plat 4, it's actually a big difference and a reason people want to get to those different milestones. So same for Crucible, and I think if we saw most of the awards and what we're trying to collect in this game come from those combat sources more like they used to, instead of from these just crazy events, I think we'd all enjoy this game a lot more. So that's how I'd boil this down. But with that said, I want to get into kind of the issue with the community right now and partly what I just did, but I want to talk about that a little more. So my tips for the community and for other content creators out there, everything in life is, positive, negative, pros and cons, risk, reward. Like there's always two sides to every story. And in all these videos I'm watching right now and so much of the community discussions, it's only about the negative. And that's human nature. Like I get it. And there's no problem with that. The negative's usually very warranted. But like when we're only talking about the negative, we forget why we love this game. And what I'd encourage people to do, something I'd actually tried a little bit and I've seen other CCs talk about, go play another game for a few days. stop playing MSF for those few days, or keep playing it regardless. But then take some time and reflect what was actually more fun. So like, are these bugs in MSS? Is some of this like change in direction that Scopely's driving that we all hate, no question, but is it making it worse? Probably. But is it making it a bad game? No. This game's still a lot of fun. So the feedback's good. We hope they make it better and better. But it just feels like the community as a whole is just like so bogged down in all this negativity right now. And it's important that we remember this is actually still a really great game. And it almost feels like sometimes people want this game to fail, and I don't understand why. Sure, I hate some of the negatives, but at the end of the day, I love playing this. I love the relationships it allows me to have with some of my buddies in my alliance. Like, I just really want this game to succeed, and sure, I'd like for some things to get better. But relative to other games that I play or other games I can find, I still absolutely love Marvel Strike Force. We need to remember that for a little bit. So, why is that? So, first off, and most importantly, wanted to say rest in peace to Ray Liotta. So, he was one of the original gangsters. When my wife heard the news a few days ago, she talked about how he was just like born to play a gangster. So, badass actor. Unfortunately, we lost him. I think he was 67 or maybe 69. But rest in peace there. So, back to the topic. The game is still amazing. So, I think first off is the Marvel IP and character recognition. So I know a lot of people are trying Lord of the Rings. I've actually really been enjoying that game. I might start doing videos for it. I'm still not sure if I'm going to play it long term or not. But I do really like it. But part of the problem in there, I was trying to describe a character to one of my buddies, and I was like, yeah, it's the white guy with blonde hair. His name starts with an E. And it's like, okay, well, which one of those two is it? And I was like, it's the one that taunts with his special, that puts up like 2 hits worth of taunt. But like, how much we take for granted being able to say Iron Man or Spider Weaver, or like, they're these very recognizable characters, either that we know, or just even if it's like a Scopely original or maybe one that's not as popular in the comics, like they're easy to recognize, they're easy to know their names. It's fun watching them, blow people up with missile launchers and different rockets and all kinds of crazy things versus like swinging swords. So there is still magic to the Marvel IP. And that's something we won't get anywhere else besides this type of game. So there's a lot of fun in this game because of that. I also feel like it's the best combat for any hero corrector I've ever played. The dynamics with death proof, with focus, resistance, like the combat and theory crafting capabilities is just unreal. And as characters' kits get bigger and bigger, it's sometimes even harder to keep track of it all. But it's still just amazing combat and so fun to plan and actually play out. Additionally, the graphics and the art in this game are unbelievable. That's one thing I think I've heard consistent positive feedback on from the community, and never really any hate, but always worth remembering, especially as we see some of the competitors out there. And also, I think Scopely's making this a little worse. Still, the options for like how you optimize your roster and characters in this game and the agency we get in that is unbelievable. And I know everyone's complaining about gold, and it's fair. It'd be nice to have more gold. There's no question. I'm not feeling it as much as most people somehow. I don't know why. But it is the point where like if gold is the bottleneck, that's behind every upgrade. So like that's the optimal way of, hey, we're using our resources to decide really what we want to do where. And again, more gold would be great, no question. But like if training mats is the bottleneck, we can't level characters. If gold's the bottleneck, like we have to decide if we want to level characters or put that T4 upgrade on them, or do some of the gear equipment that costs gold, or like it's just a different way of looking at it. And again, more gold would be nice, but I think we still have so much agency and decisions for how we actually manage our roster and power up our team, and that's a lot of fun for me. So overall, I'm still just having an absolute blast playing this game. I'd ask the community, even though all the gripes and complaints are definitely warranted and they're fair, like let's keep our head above the water and just remember as well, along with those negatives, the corresponding positives and why we play this game. Again, I think just all this negative talk is snowballing. It was starting to bring me down, and I actually stopped watching as many videos because I wanted to be more positive and still remember why I enjoyed this game. So wanted to cover why the game is still amazing, and hopefully that reminds us why we do like it. All right, so that is all I have for today, guys. So really appreciate you watching this video. As always, I give you my word that this is the best advice I have. All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. Peace.